Shatterscarp of the Living Lands is a harsh but absolutely stunning desert with Thirdborn as its main settlement, full of rough and tumble mercenaries just trying to squeak out a living after leaving wherever behind. But Shatterscarp is under siege from the Dream Scourge, a plague that twists the soul and body into a sort of fungal undeath. Can our hero Tain find the source of the Scourge here in Shatterscarp? Can he best the hordes of Dream Thralls with only his fists and trusty shield? Or will he crumble under the pressure and grief of the plague-ridden Living Lands? Let's find out. If you missed episode 1 in Dawnshore, you can find it over here. And if you missed episode 2 in Emerald Stair, you can find that one over here. Over the trip to Shatterscarp from Emerald Stair, Cap got some good rest, granting him 2 new ability points. The first of these he put into Unbreakable, which reduces the cost of blocking by 25%. A nice boon when being assaulted by many enemies at once. The second point we put into Devastating Criticals, increasing our critical damage with our punches by 30%. If we find enough sources of critical chance, that is going to be a very solid damage bump. Cap and crew arrived in Shatterscarp to find Adirian soldiers and a Thirdborner arguing after an apparently brutal battle with Dream Thralls. Several soldiers from both sides died against the Dream Thralls. We haven't seen too many of those so far, but if there are enough to send the Adirian soldiers retreating, we might be in for a tough time. A few feet away from the arguing leaders, another Adirian soldier told Cap of an old sulfur mine that was being reopened to assist Thirdborn in making gunpowder to defend their town and Shatterscarp from Dream Thralls. Cap offered to help, and the soldier gave our hero directions to the mine. Down the cliff, Cap met 2 Amalan teenagers whose parents had turned into Dream Thralls while they were out looking for food. Cap offered to put the Dream Thrall parents out of their misery so that the kids could perform their funeral rites. 2 brief fights with packs of Dream Thralls away, Cap found the teen's house. It was unpleasant putting these Dream Thralls down, and it was unpleasant putting any of them down. But maybe the kids can get some closure now. Not too far from the house, Cap found this grisly scene with a note. Tell them any tale of sky and storm and earth, but do not tell them of my final desert rose to flee the coming dream drowning. This man seems to have had the Dream Scourge and taken himself out before it could fully take him. Not even 1,000 steps into Shatterscarp, and the whole region seems in shambles. The plague has hit this place harder than Dawnshore and Emerald Stair combined. A short while later, while exploring this massive crystalline structure, Cap and crew stumbled upon a shrine to Whale, the god of both deception and revelation, among other things. This shrine may prove beneficial in our camp, like the shrine to Wotica we found in Dawnshore earlier. Before Cap and crew headed for Thirdborn that same night, the team got into another hairy fight with some aggressive Dream Thralls. Giada and Marius were both knocked down at least once, and Cap himself went down briefly before cleaning up the final 2 aggressive melee Thralls with Giada's help. A short swim through the Thirdborn oasis and a peek over the edge of a cliff later, Cap and the team assembled with the guards at the gate of Thirdborn to defend from a massive Dream Thrall assault. Cap buffed up with some quick food, and then the team charged in to assist the guards, immediately running fist first into a very tough Dream Thrall gunner that ate our punches for dinner. It felt to Cap like he was punching a metal wall when fighting several of these Dream Thralls. The fight was frantic, but it turns out that these tough guys can be taken down with a gnarly stun combo like any other enemy. It just takes a little while, and his knuckles hurt a little bit afterwards. After several minutes of punching and charging, 5 more Dream Thralls snuck by the guards all the way to the gate and had one guard cornered. Cap and the team ran in and started swinging, but with so many tough enemies, the fight lasted another several minutes. To the guards' credit, they did manage to hold their own, but they didn't do a lot of damage. After helping the guards defend the town, one of the guards questioned Cap, trying to pressure him to stay out, but the other guard proved loyal to the help that Cap provided and allowed the crew inside. After some shopping, we broke the news to the teenagers about their parents, and Giada offered some comforting words, thankfully.
The grief you're feeling now, it doesn't go away, but you learn to live with it. Eventually, you befriend it. Trust me.
Upstairs, we met with Yatsli and Temerity, the leader of Thirdborn. Temerity was suspicious, but Cap played it diplomatically, trying not to piss her off. Cap and Temerity and Yatsli had a brief discussion about the threats lurking in Shatterscarp, namely Ludwin and the Archmage of Terror Ringgrim, who currently controls the ruins that Yatsli needs us to visit to learn more about the source of the Dream Scourge and the garden where Sapadal is. No worries, right? Just the Archmage of Terror and a lady with flaming eyes who we pissed off by defending Fjord. Easy peasy. Temerity did give directions to Ringrim though.
Head east of here, go past the Pargrunen ruins, and when you see the ice, you're there.
Downstairs, Cap met with Yatsli again and recruited her into the party, sending Marius back to camp for some rest and chill time with Kai. I'm sure they're not going to argue, right? Yatsli warned us.
Oh, it's so exciting, isn't it? Hopefully we'll even get to keep all our limbs.
No worries, right? Before charging off to meet the Archmage though, Cap is in desperate need of experience. With these tough Dream Thralls running around, these exceptional Meat Hammers are just not going to smash it. We need superb Meat Hammers if we're going to take on the Archmage, should it come to that. Hell, we're going to need superb Iron Fists just to take out most of Shatterscarp. For experience then, we picked up a quest to bring some old crewmates back to this captain for one last drink, and picked up 5 bounties. On the way out of town, Cap ran into some old friends, Elora the smuggler from Tutorial Island, and Leofled and Gladwine, who Elora smuggled to Thirdborn. Cap helped Leofled and Gladwine get here to the property that they bought in town. They were happy to see our hero and gave Cap a very drippy new gambeson, which Cap happily put on as a transmog. From the town gates, Cap began his hunt for experience by running north into the Sand Sea. There, he found a sad scene of a man trapped in a cave by roots who starved to death. That is not the kind of experience he was looking for. Nearby, Cap noticed a strangled Adra to commune with, but had to clear some spiders to get to it. Luckily, the spiders weren't too tough, only taking a few spanking planks to take down, but the fight granted just enough experience for level 14. Unfortunately, the next rank of Iron Fist isn't until level 16, so Cap settled on taking a rank of Harvest Essence to help out with Essence Sustain. Harvest Essence doubles the amount of Essence gained from killing enemies. For his attribute point, Cap put a point into Perception for more critical hit chance and thus more damage. Our hero then climbed his way to a strangled Adra stone where he briefly communed with Sabadal for a nice chunk of experience. From the strangled Adra, Cap set out further into the Sand Sea, finding a brutal fight with some beetles and skeletons. Yatsli proved herself a very strong companion for Cap though, throwing out powerful area of effect spells that made the fight much easier. She is going to be a great friend to have around. Across the ridge, Cap met a pretty bad painter and tried to help him out, but we don't have much faith. That painting looks nothing like what he's looking at, which is what I think he's trying to paint. Cap then made his way back south toward the mine he offered to help out and found himself in the brush with some Dream Thralls again. Several punches and purple bombs later, the crew cleared the Dream Thralls and moved on. A little further south, our hero found a rusty red stream of water with spiders all around it and decided to start clearing these out. The mine was going to have a spider problem too, so maybe these were related. Cap led with a leaping airborne charge and failed the superhero landing. The scream was a little cowardly, but nobody heard that, right? Cap did manage to take out the spiders though. Up above the stream and behind the waterfall that fed it, Cap found a very angry group of ghosts protecting some shiny loot. The fight was brutal, with these shades being tough as nails. Yatsli's powers proved invaluable though, doing the bulk of the damage to these powerful ghosts. Unfortunately, the loot wasn't worth it this time around the wheel. Cap has no need to summon spiders in combat. Cap and crew then finally arrived at the mine to find an apparently kind Adiran committed to alliances more than power. Cap offered to help clear out the spiders for the soldier and camouflage Thirdborner to help keep and promote the peace between Thirdborn and the Empire. The situation in Fjord, with the whole raiding and everything, made all of this sticky, so Cap needs this to work. A night of chatter with the team later, Cap and crew headed into the mine to fight some arachnids. The guard outside seemed rather intense, letting us through, but not until reminding us that spiders...
Fucking skidda.
And showing how much he dislikes the Thirdborners for what transpired in the mine. Inside the mine was an arachnophobe's hellscape. Little giant spiders everywhere, enough webbing to capture a god, and some spiders with carapaces tougher than steel plate. Luckily, a little godlike power and a pink wizard's spells made relatively light work of these little creepers. The Spider Queen did try and take us down with a gnarly combo. Thorn of Sapadal rooted her in place, preventing her from hitting us. That is pretty handy. With the first big group of spiders down, Cap set fire to the nest and moved on to find more threats in the mine. Very handy again, Cap used his ranged fist attack to explode a barrel of explosives and one-shot this little giant spider. In the next big room, Cap found another bunch of spiders ready for squishing, but they did not go down easy. After taking out the first wave, several more spiders crawled out and some dream thralls accompanied them. These dream thralls were tough, and in the process of directing Yancey's magic, a barrel exploded at Cap's feet and he almost went down before a potion picked him back up. Soon after, another spider queen crawled out of the cave and almost ate Cap alive, but the crew ultimately prevailed. As a nice treat, Cap found some fancy gloves that made him feel like a man of iron with them on, so he decided to use them as a transmog. While clearing out the last few spiders, Cap was out-pressured by 4 of them and had to hide behind his shield while waiting for Yahtzee to barrage them with her magic. The tactic was effective and kept Cap alive. Fist-fighting 4 aggressive spiders at once in a tight space was quite challenging. On the way out of the cave, the guard from the mine entrance met us and tried to convince us to blow the whole mine up to avoid war with Thirdborn. Cap's goal is to avoid war through mutually beneficial alliances, not whatever this is. Yahtzee said it best.
Ah, yes, because nothing averts war like an unprovoked attack.
Darlo was unhappy with this turn of events and decided to try and kill our hero, and he almost achieved it. Yahtzee saved the day with massive magical damage, and Giada healed us up while Darlo focused his attacks on Cap. He did get a good few swings in, but Cap charged in, knocking him off his feet and stunning him, letting Cap get in a stun combination. From there, it was just a Thorn of Sapodol and a few more punches to take out the Zealous soldier. Hopefully, this will earn us a firmer alliance with Thirdborn. A night of restless sleep teaching Sapodol about Kith life on the land later, Cap and crew once more set out on the hunt for that mythical experience. First thing, Cap encountered a giant beetle and a few Zarabs. The fight appeared to be going well, with the giant beetle almost dead before Cap had to back off and create a little distance, but in the process, a Zarab priest healed every single enemy while the giant beetle spawned little beetles that added to the pressure of the fight. Cap's companions also went down, making the fight much harder until he managed to get them up. From there, Cap whittled down enemy health until they were all down for the count. Tough fight though. Exploring a little more, Cap found someone who seemed to have died falling off this waterfall, either on purpose or on accident. It was unclear which. Above the grisly scene, Cap found yet another dream thrall, this one apparently a natural healer who tried to let the waterfall wash away the plague, to no avail. Yet another victim of this terrible plague. A short walk away, Cap and crew found a small village or cluster of buildings on fire, and a well that made sounds like a dream thrall or undead. That is ominous. A note inside one of the buildings suggested this place was being used for research, so Cap kept exploring. After pulling a key from the door though, 3 ash blights appeared and absolutely kicked Cap's teeth in with fiery fire. After a premonition of death, Cap said no to the fight, only to circle around and lead with a sneaking charge attack. The fight went much better this time thanks to Yahtzee's magic and Cap backing off every time the ash blight attempted to explode and push Cap off a bit. Turns out these blights really don't like being in melee combat with anything, so Cap has to make sure to knock them off the ground if he wants to do some sustained damage. Inside one of the research houses, Cap found a new shield that should prove useful against spiders, causing webs to no longer slow him down. With a key to the well in hand, Cap and crew climbed down the well only to find, you guessed it, some spiders. Thanks to the new shield maybe, the fights went well. Cap squashed and punched, and Yahtzee dropped big purple bombs, making the fights a breeze. Through a crack in the wall, our hero found caged dream thralls and at least one person who hadn't fully turned yet.
Trapped! Branches and...
Deeper into the cave though, Cap found the dream thralls' captors, a group of researchers trying to find a cure for the dream scourge. They requested supplies from Captain Weemgar back at the entrance to Shatterscarp. Cap agreed to talk with Weemgar because any attempt at curing this dream scourge is worth pursuing, and Weemgar seemed to agree.
That's all we can hope to be.
Later that day, as the night began, Cap checked out a nearby bounty only to find that these enemies would be wicked tough to take down. Cap didn't even try. Cap and the team set out for the Sand Sea once again to try and find the captain's crew from back in Thirdborn. In the sea, Cap and team fought Zarabs, giant beetles, little big beetles, and more. Cap found that he really enjoyed using his godlike powers here. There was a sort of catharsis in lining up a Thorn of Sapodol to hit more than one enemy. It was a powerful ability and felt very cool to throw out a ranged punch. At the end of a cliff, Cap and crew fought a group of dream thralls, and Yahtzee managed to knock one off the cliff, instantly dooming it. Nearby, Cap found another bad painter, a memorial, and yet more Zarabs. He lined up a thorn and threw it from stealth before dodging and weaving past thrown spears to take down the little slashers. Dream thralls showed up after, and Cap took them out both at the same time with a lined up thorn. very satisfying. Then, Cap launched the Dream Thrall into the water far below with a well-placed charge, and that was even more satisfying. He also found a map for our friend Sansa back in Paradise. While exploring the cliffs at the edge of Shatterscarp, Cap cleared out many more Dream Thralls, and found one beautiful, but yet again, sad scene. This person appears to have drank themselves to death here on this cliff, overlooking the beautiful ocean in front of them. I wonder what they were thinking about. Were they mourning? An addict? Soon to be a Dream Thrall? Whoever this was, I'm sorry. A fight with some tough Dream Thralls later, where Cap threw maybe 1,000 punches, the crew found an oasis with one of the captain's crewmates, and another piece of the totem back in camp. Tawe was a total bro, and agreed to meet with the captain back at Thirdborn. Tawe and Yatzli also seemed to get along.
You and I could be great friends, Tawe.
We'd have to find you a stepladder, but I'm not saying no.
Following along the cliff's edge, Cap found a large godless ruin with 2 outlaws chatting outside. The outlaws happened to be our bounties, and confessing their crimes when we approached. Try as he might though, it still ended in a brawl. Both of these enemies were tougher than nails and took an enormous amount of punching to deal with. Cap focused on the fast-moving, sword-wielding rogue first, using charge to knock him off his feet and then wailing on him with punches. He pulled off 2 stun combinations on Dario, but then Coda jumped in to protect his partner. But it was too little too late, and Cap did manage to take Dario down shortly after. The crew then took turns knocking the little guy Coda off his feet with charges or purple bombs, and managed to take him out too. As the night began, Cap made his way toward the Shark's Teeth region of Shatterscarp in search of a campsite, but all he found were Dream Thralls and a Svefhead out in the wild. The Dream Thralls were very dangerous though, especially these tougher ones that swarmed Cap and unleashed huge combinations on him. Cap approached with a new plan and a little more essence in the tank, using a godlike sneak attack and his Thorn attack to deal with the Swarmer early, making space to deal with the other enemies. With no camp to be found, the crew traveled back to one that they knew of for some rest, and then headed back out to Shark's Teeth in search of yet more experience. At the barricaded entrance to Shark's Teeth, an Amawa called us over and asked us for some help delivering supplies to 2 people holed up in a tower set up to defend against Dream Thralls. Cap was always willing to help out, so he agreed. The experience will just be a bonus. A few steps into Shark's Teeth, though, proved perilous with several very tough enemies to fight. Cap and crew sprinted away right into another group of enemies, but these ones weren't quite so intimidating, mostly because there were fewer of them. However, Yatzli had already been taken down, so all the damage was up to Cap. He quickly squished some bugs and then very slowly whittled down a skeleton fighter with a shield. It took forever. Another few steps and Cap and crew ran into another ambush, but just sprinted on through as fast as possible, right to the tower that they were searching for. Finding the tower granted a whopping 3,300 experience for some reason, which was plenty to hit our next milestone, level 15. At level 15, like all multiples of 5, we now get 2 ability points. For our first, we dropped it into Retribution for a nice get hit and hit back harder ability. With some skill, this means we can purposely take a hit that Giada will heal off for us and then dish out 70% of that damage back to the enemy. Hopefully this will give us some rather chunky punches occasionally, and will make the damage we take much more worth it. For our second point, we took our 3rd rank of Finesse, which will grant our punches a total of 50% more damage. Not bad. Only 1 more level to upgrade our meat hammers to Superb. At the tower, we met a wounded Adirian soldier who was scouting out the area but was injured by the traps laid for the Dream Thralls. The soldier asked us to find whoever set the traps and deal with it because the traps had already killed several other soldiers. Cap is on it. Just around the corner, Cap started seeing all the traps, and they really were everywhere. He ran through a few and even took a couple of hits getting slammed in the chest by a big log, but he shrugged it off. A little billy goating later though, and he managed to climb his way to the top of the tower. A little too easily, honestly. He found a journal entry from someone who seemed to be the ones laying the traps. They were seeking a method of weaponizing the traps against Adirians, not just against Dream Thralls. Weaponizing as in asking someone to deliver supplies up a tower that's trapped to kill people? Great. This is a trap at the top of a tower that is already filled with traps. Just before the final ladder to the top, Cap overheard the villain's plans.
I finished the last of the traps, love.
And if they don't, we'll still make Adir bleed for it.
These two that he heard talking offered a pretty scathing critique of empires, but Cap managed to talk them down. Finishing the quest rewarded Cap with another huge burst of experience, another 3,300, pushing him so close to level 16 that a few fights would be enough to push him over the edge. From the top of the tower, Cap scouted around, looking at the major landmarks in the area and deciding on a plan. He then jumped off the tower into a little, conveniently placed pool. Cap then sprinted out of Shark's Teeth, hopefully with Giada and Yahtzee following. They eventually caught up while Cap was reading yet another suicide note from a person with the Dream Scourge. Shatterscarp really has been ravaged by this plague. There has to be a way to stop its spread. Nearby, Cap found the gate to Galawain's tusks, as well as Nakakubel, the ruins we were looking for with Yahtzee that are still locked down by Ringgrim. Cap then noticed some strange arrows pointing their way through the desert and decided to follow them out of curiosity until the heights momentarily got the better of him. Twice. Third try though, Cap managed to jump and then charge across the large gap and land with only a little scream. Our valiant hero then fought his way through several spiders, only to find a sort of drug dealer's hideout. Our new dealer friend though died right in front of us from a treatable spider bite, but we somehow ended up with the drugs for free. On our way out of there, Giada said,
Hear me out. What if we throw caution to the wind, sample the goods, and never speak of this again? Interested?
Yeah, Giada, great idea. Let's try the Dream Scourge plague drugs that could immediately infect us all, and then we're all dead. Fantastic idea. Just down the cliff, Cap found a group of Zarips and beetles. He punched and thorned and purple bombed his way through the fight for enough experience to hit our next major milestone, level 16. We used our new ability point to immediately upgrade our meat hammers to superb with the 3rd rank of Iron Fist, meaning we are ready to take on whatever else Shatterscarp can throw at us. With our attribute point, we put this one into perception again for a tad more crit chance in preparation for another rank of devastating criticals in the future. A little nighttime exploring later, Cap and crew found some treasure through a door that just needed a little power. We found the Stormsworn bow, which, while useless this time around the wheel, maybe another time it would be one of the best possible weapons. The next day, Cap took his upgraded fist for a test run, starting with clearing out those enemies all around the tower and much of Shark's Teeth. With the upgraded fist, these skeletons dropped without much fanfare, though just one level ago they would have felt like they were breaking Cap's fists with their faces. Some enemies were still tough, of course. This ambush, for example, was still quite the bear, with archers hitting very hard, and even worse, these little ash blights walloping Cap with melee attacks if he stayed close for too long, but if he was too far, they would throw out fireballs, several in a row. A very great many punches later, the ambush was cleared and Cap found his prize, an item that Kai had asked for. While clobbering his way through Shark's Teeth, Cap found one of his 5 bounties, an undead Captain Tago with a big ol' sword and a hurricane-like spinning attack that would knock Cap off his feet. On his first try, Cap actually killed Captain Tago, but a skeleton chanter came out of the ground and complicated things greatly. And then, somehow some giant beetles sent Cap packing. The second attempt was more efficient. Cap used some food buffs and then worked on killing all of the extra guys that were distracting Giada and Yahtzee the whole fight with the first try. The skeleton chanter was the most difficult, of course, but it did go down. Then he took out the beetles while Captain Tago was still mostly full health. Once the fight was down to just the captain, Cap and Yahtzee took turns knocking him down with charges and purple bombs, making the fight much simpler. Our hero eventually used a big stun combination for a bunch of damage, and from there it was just a few more punches to collect our bounty. Just beyond Captain Tago Street, we found another fight, of course. But more importantly, we found the Archmage's Lair, a campsite and the 4th piece of Whale's Totem. This piece granting 5% critical chance, which could be very nice if we choose to use it. Even though the Archmage's Lair was right there, Cap and crew decided to go find the Thirdborn Captain's crew member first nearby. Kawa told us that his friends had all been turned into dream thralls at their farm here in Shark's Teeth.
Please.
A bunch of punches later, the basic dream thralls were down and Cap used a thorn to explode some barrels that the last one was standing next to. It was sad taking out this guy's fungal dead friends, but exploding barrels with a thorn will never not be satisfying. Cap then convinced Kawa to go back to Thirdborn to meet the captain, but he told us that the captain always wanted them dead. Weird. I really hope that this is just a drink together and nothing nefarious. The crew then went searching for this abandoned mine where the last member of the crew was hiding out. After a bunch of running around, Cap finally spotted this light in a cave thanks to the nighttime lighting. Inside, he found a bunch of beetles that needed exterminating. After squashing the bugs, he climbed up the mine to find a makeshift campsite with the final crew member inside. She was the most reluctant to attend the meeting and also said,
"He's been trying to kill me for years."
She said she didn't want to attend, and Cap didn't try too hard to convince her. Now a little convinced himself that this may have been a bad idea all along. Elsewhere in the mine, Cap found another piece of star metal like the piece he found at Emerald Stair. Star metal knuckles would be fantastic, wouldn't they? Now we have a piece for each hand, if we can find someone to make them for us. Cap then ran back to Thirdborn, which was basically across the street, and brought drinks up to the captain and his 2 crew members. He toasted to the new times ahead and healing wounds, but
To the healing of wounds.
Kawa kinda just died, and no one seemed bothered by it. He was just dead, on the floor right there, and they didn't really care.
Oh my. What's happened to Koa?
Absolutely bizarre, but I'm glad What's-Her-Face didn't come over here with us now. While shopping after witnessing a murder, Cap found the drug dealer's twin brother and gave him the sketchy package and informed him of his brother's death. He did not seem that bothered by it. What a great brother. Maybe we also shouldn't have given the Dream Thrall drugs to a random guy. I don't know. Cap also turned in his currently collected bounties and finished his shopping spree before packing it in for the night. While shopping, Cap did pick up a new pair of gloves, a pretty big upgrade over his previous ones. The Thirdborn gloves give a whopping +3 to our might stat, which will increase our damage by a good deal. The gloves also boost power attack damage when we decided to spend some stamina on them, which is fantastic. The next day, Cap, Yatsley, and Giada set out to go bounty hunting. The first target was a Zarb leader on a crag in the Sand Sea. On the way, the team found yet more Dream Thralls, but with our new Iron Fists, they weren't too bad to take down. There were quite a few of them though. The reward for finishing these guys off was a nice bit of treasure in a locked chest, the Whisper of Exile's Wand. Cap couldn't convince Giada or Yatsley to use it, but maybe another time the wheel, it'll be better. After another Dream Thrall battle, Cap and crew found the Zarb camp and started their assault. Cap snuck in and then focused on the High Priest, wailing on it while directing Yatsley to drop a bomb on it. The burst of damage took the High Priest down quickly and freed us to focus on other enemies. Cap went toe-to-toe with a very aggressive Bulwark and took a few big hits, but Giada healed him right up as he took down the remaining 2 enemies on the ground level. A short climb up the crag later, Cap ate a big snack of buff food and then jumped into battle against several Zarabs, and one really big one and aggressive one. Because there was a priest, Cap began the fight trying to focus the wiggly dinosaur down first, but the priest kept running away. Eventually, he managed to get it down and then realized he could use charge to knock the little guys off the plateau. 2 little Zarabs later, Cap charged the big guy and knocked him back too, realizing that he'd be able to charge the big Zarb off the cliff as well, making the fight so much easier. 10 seconds later, after wailing on him to keep the bounty in place at the edge of the cliff, Cap explosively charged and sent the chief flying to its doom with just a little satisfaction. Up above at the very peak of the crag, Cap found another memory of Sapodal's to explore. This ancient memory was about a godlike woman of Sapodal's like us named Nimana, a hermit watcher of the Akita long before. She was there for a cataclysmic event that Sapodal triggered with nothing but a flinch. Sapodal's power was such that a flinch was enough to destroy and maybe even cause whatever made Shatterscarp into this desert. This memory granted us 10% additional stamina, a welcome buff, but the memory itself was a little concerning. Next, the team traveled back to the far side of Shatterscarp for their next bounty, a pod of Dream Thralls we had run from before. This fight was challenging, but not terrible. Cap began by charging and bursting down the priest so that she wouldn't heal the rest of the Dream Thralls before transitioning to wail on anything in front of him. Giada and Yatsley held their own quite well, never going down during the fight, even though Cap was incapacitated once. No particular enemy in this group was all that bad thanks to our upgraded fists, which was nice though. That same day, Cap and crew made their way back to the front door of Nagakubel for the final bounty, an earthen blight named Moi Piki. This was a challenging but fun fight for Cap because every charge sent Moi Piki flying some 10 feet in the air, The way he imagined the fight the first time, though, did not go well, with Moipiki getting the best of him. The second attempt was much better. Charging Moipiki almost on cooldown and launching him through the air, Cap even managed to launch, stun, and then combo Moi while the Blight was still in the air somehow, which felt incredible. Soon after, the Blight and Beetles were dealt with, and Cap was free to turn in the bounties at last. The reward for turning these in were the Bracers of Bloodletting, a reasonably good set of gloves, but not quite as good for us as the Thirdborn gloves. But they do look quite nice, so Cap put them on. The next day, Cap took Kai out of the camp for a quick trip to his friend's memorial. It was an emotional time, but Kai seemed to be healing from all that had happened with his friend, though I suspect he isn't quite done with this story just yet. A night's sleep later, Cap, Yatsli, and Giada were finally ready to meet Ringgrim, hopefully without violent conflict, but you never know. At the end of a long and cold tunnel of snow, the team found themselves on the receiving end of a parable being taught by an apparition of Ringgrim. However, a clever bit of paying attention to the environment and platforming with Cap's ability to charge let Cap skip some of the story, finding a Heart of Adra that looked important. A short fight with a bunch of skeletons and an annoying Ash Blight later, Yatsli read a book from Ringgrim filling us in on more details of the parable. Placing the first piece of the statue in the statue rewarded us with enough experience for level 17 and a new ability point. We dropped this ability point into Critical Strike, granting us an additional 10% critical chance, which will be yet another nice damage upgrade for our fists. Looking around some more, Cap noticed another path that seemed suspicious. Another charge allowed Cap to find the room of another statue piece without any hassle, but this one was guarded by a villager, apparently from the parable that we're learning from.
I can't have it. I don't want to die. Don't take the Adra piece from me. I'll do anything. Please.
Taking this Adra piece did not feel good, but Ringgrim's message seems to be, sacrificing one for many is sensible, at least sometimes. That is an enormously hard call to make, though. Cap could not find a sneaky way to get to the final piece of Adra, so he had to fight his way there through a brutal group of skeletons and shades. He took out the enemies along the path without too much issue, just a lot of punches as usual and a little bit of kiting to make room because this spider kept summoning more spiders that were a huge pain. Up above, Cap found the final piece of the statue and used it to complete the parable, which was enough for Ringgrim to grant Cap and crew an audience. In the audience chamber though, Ringgrim wanted to finish her reading. She couldn't be bothered by us, and so she told us,
Amuse yourself with these skeletons while I finish this paragraph.
rude as hell, man, but fine. What followed was a multiple wave fight against skeletons and shades that summoned other shades and little spiders and more. It was chaotic, with multiple priests healing during the different waves, fighters blocking punch after punch, spiders biting and jumping and leaping. But in the end, the team rallied and managed to take out the undead and spiders without anyone going down, so I guess it couldn't have been that bad. Thankfully, Ringgrim did finish her reading and speak with us before she killed us. She questioned us about the parable and then explained it.
The village would have lived if they had chosen to sacrifice one dying soul for the good of many living ones.
She also told us about her very interesting philosophy.
What matters is that our lives buy the world more history, more beauty, more time to create interesting things. Do you understand?
Little concerning.
When this is over.
After some more back and forth and teaching the Archmage about Sapadal, which she didn't know about before, Ringgrim granted us passage into Nakukubel because Cap can open it, even though Ringgrim failed to. She even offered Yatsli her own grimoire to dispel the magic, which seemed quite exciting. The next day, before setting off for Nakukubel, Cap followed the bridge from the campsite until he found himself in a Park Runin cache with a puzzle to solve. How to open this gate. After a lot of fussing around and running around to get the elevator where he needed it when he needed it, Cap found these levers on the 3rd floor of the cache. One of them, he's not sure which, opening the gate to the shiny loot, which was shiny indeed. In this cache, Cap found Scald's Brigandine, a new heavy armor with 25% damage reduction, 20% stamina regeneration, and the ability to regenerate health if Cap's companions are downed. That is phenomenal and well worth sacrificing 20% movement speed to use, especially before taking on whatever dangers lurk in Nakukubel. One trek across Shatterscarp later, the crew arrived in Nakukubel ready to take on the Dream Thralls, and there were many Dream Thralls. The fight started out easy, but quickly became overwhelming, especially upstairs at the front door where there were many powerful Dream Thralls. Cap had a very, very, very hard time imagining how to beat these guys until finally he decided to use a bunch of food buffs and hold nothing back. The extra damage and damage reduction from Magram's Blessing, 20% each, did just the trick, allowing Cap to deal enough damage to take out the big threats like the Wizard quickly before they could blast Cap with 8 balls of lightning in a row. Turns out, performance-enhancing foods do indeed enhance your performance. Once the Dream Thralls were dead and the group chatted for a moment, Yatsley opened the barrier and the crew entered Nakukubel. Inside, Cap and crew were immediately assaulted by Dream Thralls, though how they got in, I have no idea. Maybe they were in here before Ringgrim put up a barrier? Though Cap did almost die once, Thorn of Sapidal and Flurious Punches were enough to clear the room. Beyond the door at the end of the hall was a giant Adra stone with vines all around. Scattered around the stone were 3 doors, and in front of one of them...
That's a ghost. That's an Akedan ghost!
The ghost taught us about the Magfolk, the giant robot contraptions that we've occasionally seen around godless ruins, and how they slaughtered the Akedans, and how Sapidal may have harmed or killed Akedans while defending against the Magfolk. The ghost also challenged us to complete a trial of strength, which of course meant trial by brutal combat with ancient undead, because why would a trial of strength just be simple weightlifting? The first room was a frantic, chaotic fight. Cap ran back and forth around the room, charging and sprinting and punching and blocking, trying to help his companions with the skeletons attacking them. Even though Cap took a quick incapacitation early on in the fight, the rest of the first room went well and no one else went down. So, first room down. How many more? A hallway with a pool in it later, Cap encountered the next group of undead and a lava blight which was just as annoying as an ash blight. He took it down with a series of charges and punches and then cleaned up the remaining 2 enemies. The next room was significantly more challenging though. Cap again had a very, very hard time imagining how to take on all these enemies. There were a smattering of rangers that peppered him with arrows from across the room, a few Dream Thralls that exploded, and of course the dreaded Chanter that spawns in very aggressive, powerful minions that put a lot of pressure on our hero. And then, a priest crawled out of the wall and healed everything, making them way more dangerous. After a few different variants of this fight played out in his head, Cap finally gave in once more and used another Magram's Blessing Mushroom to boost damage and damage reduction by 20%. That and a few other buffs, along with very high pressure on the more dangerous enemies, made the fight go a lot smoother. Taking out the Chanter before their minions could really pressure Cap made a huge difference, freed up the space to take down the last 2 waves of enemies, especially the Priest, Wizard, and the Ruinous Blight. Finishing up the last wave granted a bunch of experience, a very cool mace for another trip around the wheel, and access to a new ghost and another trial. Tanusas the ghost told us,
"The waters boiled, the land opened, the rivers rose, and we drowned."
Sapidal defended themselves, saying,
"We broke the pain. We died with them. How did we do this?"
The ghost then challenged us to a trial of wisdom, which was actually just a deadly obstacle course, instead of like a puzzle. Simple enough, but Cap did have a little trouble making it past this one. Eventually, Cap thought hard enough and made it with a long charge. A little bit of platforming, fire, and poison darts later, and the trial of the mine was complete. The reward this time being an excellent shield upgrade, Namana's Ward. Namana's Ward grants 5% damage reduction against spirits, which is nice because those things suck to fight. But it also gives temporary health when we successfully parry or land a timed block. That means if we timed block, we get free stun on enemies from the parry ability point, and some extra health sustain, which is incredible. This might be our main new shield. We are sacrificing some stamina, but our armor gives us much better stamina regen, so I think that should be fine. We were also rewarded with enough experience to hit level 18. With our new ability point, we took the first rank in toughness because we haven't been having a good time imagining fights lately. A little extra health should help. For our attribute point, we put a point into Constitution for the same reason. All that remained to do was the final trial, a leap of faith into a pool of water. We screamed, but we lived. Beyond the final door, the 3 Akedan ghosts grouped up and confronted our hero. They said,
"Now, lay your life down. We will all rest quietly. The gardener will not be disturbed."
These godlikes of Sabadal turned their backs on their god. With a stroke of luck or genius, though, Cap convinced one of them not to attack, but that still left 2 ranged damage dealers to fight. The beginning of the fight started strong. Cap wailed on the mage over and over. He charged and shield bashed until he built up a stun and unleashed a powerful combination attack. A few punches later, the ghost died again, but the ranger was still up. Luckily, a similar tactic worked. Charge, punch, bomb, stun, combo, kill. Overall, not a bad fight. Cap could do this all day. With the ghost dispatch, the team found an Akedan device which Yatsley theorized was the map, but would need a moment to interpret it. In the meantime, Sabadal asked for an audience at the big Adra stone. On the way to the Adra, Cap found a new ring upgrade, the Ranga's Clarity, which grants +2 intellect and +2 perception. Though not a strict upgrade over evading melee damage 7% of the time from the Valian ring, the extra essence and resistance from intellect and extra crit chance from perception is very welcome. I think we gained more than we lost by changing rings. At the Adra Stone, Cap spoke with Sabadal about the betrayal of the Tabaru Sinakis, the Akedan godlikes. Cap questioned Sabadal about their claims, but found only that Sabadal was traumatized by the war with the Magfolk. Sabadal claimed,
"We did not want them to die. We loved them. We tried. The spirits lie. We loved them most. They twist our words. Let us offer you another gift, a seedling of power."
Cap accepted the offer of power from Sabadal, but is now questioning his relationship with the god, just a little bit. There was no time to think, though. Basically, as soon as he woke up from his chat with Sabadal, Dream Thralls were flooding through the walls, enough of them that Cap and crew had to flee as fast as possible. Cap revived his team and sprinted for the door. Once outside, the crew took out some spiders and a few Dream Thralls before leaping across a large gap to fight a few more spiders. These spiders were a little tougher, almost taking Cap out, but the team prevailed. Only a few more Dream Thralls stood between the team and freedom. Except, around the corner were Ludwin, the Stilgarrote, and Ringgrim all waiting at the entrance. Before getting trapped in conversation with the Archmage of Terror and a Death Guard, Cap looked left and imagined what would happen if he charged across the chasm. He could certainly make the distance, but no. He couldn't approach this confrontation from another angle. He had to face it head on. The conversation that followed was more harrowing than any threat Cap had faced thus far. Ludwin and Ringgrim were arguing about how to deal with Nakukubel, the Adra Stone, and the certified horde of Dream Thralls there. Ludwin argued she and the Steel Garrote should use cannons to destroy the ruin and kill all of the Dream Thralls in order to strike back at the Dream Scourge and at Sabadal. Ringgrim, on the other hand, argued with her parable that the Adra Stone at the center of Nakukubel should be severed from the other Adra, which will prevent the spread of the Dream Scourge in Shatterscarp altogether. The Dream Thralls already there would remain, but no more would be made. But there was a catch to both solutions. With Ludwin's solution, the Dream Scourge would continue spreading in Shatterscarp, even though a lot of Dream Thralls would be taken out all at once. If the Dream Scourge keeps spreading, there is no telling how many more people will be infected and what the cost will be. And as Ludwin said, this would be a great offense to Sabadal, and maybe that isn't such a good idea considering just the power of a flinch. With Ringgrim's solution, the catch is that it would take an enormous amount of essence, which will be drawn at random from people throughout Shatterscarp. People would drop dead, drained of their essence entirely, sacrificed at random to sever the Adra. But no more would be infected. A painless death, but involuntary sacrifices. The decision was gut-wrenching. Cap was not prepared for such a lose-lose situation with this horrible plague. But all of the suicide notes that he'd found over the past several days ultimately drove his choice. The plague itself was far more horrible than fighting off the Dream Thralls. He asked Yatsley and Ringgrim to sever the Adra. Yatsley, Giada, and Sabadal all thought this was the right call, but Cap wasn't so sure. When the deed was done, there were dead steel garrote right next to them, and Cap had a horrible feeling about Thirdborn. That night at camp, Kai chewed Cap out for his decision, and Cap snapped back. Both choices meant death. In our dreams that night, Sabadal reflected on the deaths of the Akita that they had caused, neither taking responsibility for the deaths nor denying their role in them. Maybe this is not dissimilar to the deaths that Cap just caused. Attempting to save lives in both cases resulted in taking others, even innocent lives that deserved to be lived. There was no good winning. Everyone's hands were bloody. The next day, Thirdborn was in grieving shambles. The worst of it was Leofled, rocking herself on her porch. Our friend Gladwine, who was bright and cheery with a new lease on life here in Thirdborn, Leofled's husband, was dead. Because of Cap. Damn. Temerity proceeded to tear us a new one for our choice. Rage and grief just pouring from her voice.
What did you do, Envoy? I know you're involved somehow. I hope your fucking decisions haunt you forever. Get out of my sight, Envoy.
After picking up the last-minute supplies from around town, Cap and crew headed for Gallowayne's Tusks, where our new old map says the garden is. Hopefully there we can find the source and solution to this dreadful plague. Solving this problem is quickly becoming too much to bear. Cap will see you all in the next excuse.